Welcome. I trust your journey was smooth?
Yes, thank you. It's a beautiful view.
Indeed. We're thrilled to have you.
She did not knock. People like Rose Sterling do not knock. They arrive. And the room adjusts. The elevator opened directly into the penthouse, and she stepped out in a deep emerald off-shoulder gown that caught the city light like something that had been waiting for exactly this room. Hair pinned in a sleek updo, one loose piece falling across her face. Gold spectacles, single gold bracelet, leather briefcase in one hand, gold clutch in the other. The room hit her first. Black marble, sandalwood, the specific silence of a space that belongs entirely to one person's vision. Manhattan blazing 47 floors below. And at the center of it all, an obsidian chessboard, already set, 2 crystal glasses of scotch already poured. She looked at the board, then at the man standing with his back to her at the floor-to-ceiling glass. White silk shirt rolled to the forearms. Dark tailored trousers, no jacket, no tie. He did not turn around. "You are 3 minutes early," Vincenzo said. "I am always 3 minutes early," Rose said. "It is the only way to see a room before it sees you." He turned around. 2 seconds. 2 seconds across the obsidian board and the Manhattan night that neither of them would ever fully account for. In the doorway, barely visible, Seo. Standing in the shadow the way he had stood in every doorway for 27 years, watching, waiting. Rose set her briefcase down, took out the legal papers, set them beside his scotch. Vincenzo looked at them, picked them up, set them aside without reading them. "I have a better proposal," he said. He gestured to the board. Rose polished her spectacles with the unhurried precision of a woman who makes powerful men wait on purpose. Put them back on. Sat down. "Talk," she said. Vincenzo leaned across the board. His sleeve fell back, revealing the dragon tattoo. "50 million if you checkmate me, Rose. But if I win, you stop fighting me in court, and you start standing by my side at every gala from here to London." Rose picked up the black piece nearest to her, turned it between her fingers, set it back down. "Vincenzo," she said, "I suggest you enjoy that scotch, because in exactly 12 moves, you are going to realize that your money cannot buy a way out of the trap I have already set for you." She moved her first piece. Vincenzo looked at the board, then at her, then at the piece she had just placed, with the specific calm of a woman who had been planning this moment before she knew his name. He picked up his piece, moved it. And the game, the real one, the one neither of them had planned, began. Before we get into this story, I have to take a moment. We just hit 1,000 subscribers on Christy J Story. 1,000 of you chose this channel, and I do not take that lightly for even 1 second. My husband made me a promise, and because of every single one of you, that promise is now being fulfilled. From the United States to the United Kingdom, South Africa, Jamaica, Trinidad, and every country I did not mention, you showed up for this channel and you showed up for me, and we did this together. This is not my milestone. This is ours. Hit subscribe if you are new. Turn on that bell. Tell me where in the world you are watching Christy J Story from tonight. Let us get back to Rose. Rose arrived 40 minutes early. Not to be punctual, to observe. 8 months of building this case. She knew Vincenzo Kang's legitimate empire better than his own CFO, his illegitimate one better than most of his lieutenants. What no brief had told her, what no surveillance report had been able to produce, was who he actually was when the performance stopped. The lobby of Kang Tower was black marble and silence, the specific silence of a building designed to make people feel small before they reached the elevator. It did not make Rose feel small. So met her at the elevator. He looked at her the way people look at things they have been waiting for without knowing they were waiting, with the specific recognition of someone whose patience is about to be rewarded. He did not speak. He held the elevator. Rose stepped in, looked at him. "You have been with him a long time," she said. "Since he was 9, Sio said. "His mother asked me to." The doors closed. Rose filed that away, the way she filed everything, completely, without visible reaction. 47 floors. The doors opened into the penthouse. The room hit her like a physical thing. Sandalwood, night air, the weight of a space that belonged entirely to one person's vision. She looked at it carefully. The obsidian board already set, the 2 glasses already poured, the Manhattan skyline blazing through the glass. All of it prepared before she arrived. All of it a message. She set her briefcase down, looked at the board. At every piece in its precise opening position, and understood, with the specific clarity of a woman who has spent 11 years reading rooms, that those pieces were arranged before he knew she played chess, which meant he knew things about her that she had not told anyone, which meant this meeting was never going to go the way she planned. She heard him before she saw him move, the specific sound of a man who has learned to occupy space without announcing it. She did not turn around. She kept her eyes on the board, on the pieces, on the trap that was either his or hers. She had not yet decided which. "You read the board before you read the room," Vincenzo said behind her. "Most people do it the other way." Rose kept looking at the pieces. "Most people," she said, "are not me." The bet was made. Vincenzo laid out his terms with the confidence of a man who had never lost a negotiation. Not because he was always right, but because he had always been the most dangerous person at the table. Until tonight. Rose listened without interrupting, then picked up her scotch. One precise sip. Set it back down. "You rejected my legal papers 6 weeks ago," she said. "You ignored 3 certified letters. You had my paralegal followed for 11 days. She paused. "And now you want to play chess." "I want to see if you are as good as your reputation," he said. "My reputation," she said, "is that I have won every case I have taken in 11 years. Not most. Every one." "Then you should not be afraid of this bet." "I am not afraid," she said. "I am evaluating." She looked at the board, then at him. Something crossed her face. Something she locked away before it fully formed. Something that had nothing to do with chess or $50 million. And he filed it away the way she filed away what So told her in the elevator. She moved her first piece. "White moves first," she said. "Your advantage. Use it wisely." He looked at the piece she had placed, then at her. Then he moved his own. Not the move of a man playing chess, but the move of a man who had decided that whatever happened on this board tonight was going to tell him something about himself he had been waiting a long time to find out. "Tell me something, Rose," he said without looking up. "Do you always walk into rooms knowing exactly how you are going to walk out?" She looked at him over her gold spectacles. "Always," she said. "The only thing I did not plan tonight," she stopped, moved her second piece, "was you." Vincenzo looked at her second move, at the position she was already building 2 moves in, and felt the first flicker of something he had not felt at a chessboard since he was 9 years old in a kitchen in Seoul. Not threat, not challenge. Something older and more specific than both. The specific feeling of being in the presence of someone who is playing an entirely different game than the one you thought you were both playing. Moves 3 and 4, Vincenzo played the way Rose expected, aggressive, territorial, the opening of a man who learned chess by being thrown into it and told to survive. But underneath the aggression, there was precision. A patience that belonged to someone who was taught by someone who loved the game. "Your mother taught you," Rose said, moving her bishop. Vincenzo's hand stilled over his piece for exactly 1 second. "She played every morning," he said, "before the house woke up." Rose waited. "She was a concert pianist," he said. "She said chess and music were the same. Both were about knowing when to hold a note and when to let it go. Rose looked at him. This was not in any brief, not in any surveillance report. "She wanted you out," Rose said quietly. He looked up from the board. "She spent her life trying to get me out," he said. The first completely unguarded thing he had said since she walked in. She died before she could. The Manhattan skyline blazed behind him. Rose looked at the board, then back at him, and filed away something that had nothing to do with the case and everything to do with the man across the obsidian surface. She moved her fourth piece. Vincenzo watched her hand on the board, the gold bracelet catching the light, the one loose piece of hair she had not pinned, and understood that he had made a tactical error, not on the board, before she arrived. He had spent 8 months learning everything about Rose Sterling the lawyer. He had not spent a single hour learning anything about Rose Sterling the person. 4 moves in, he was realizing that the person was the thing he should have been afraid of all along. He moved his piece, looked at her. "Tell me something," he said. "What made you take this case?" Rose looked at the board for a moment, then at him. "The same thing that makes me take every case," she said. "Someone needed to." She paused. "And nobody else was going to." Moves 5 and 6. Vincenzo shifted strategy, abandoned the aggressive opening, moved into something more controlled, crowding her pieces, limiting her space, forcing her into reactive play. The same strategy he used in boardrooms and backrooms and every negotiation he had ever entered. Control the space, control the outcome. Rose did not react. She played with the stillness of a woman who had been playing this game since she was 7 years old, in her grandmother's kitchen in Philadelphia, and had never once been rattled by an opponent who confused aggression with strategy. "You are not playing defensively," Vincenzo said. "I never play defensively," she said. "Every great player has a defensive game." "Every great player," she said, "knows the difference between defense and patience." She looked at him over her spectacles. "I am not defending anything. I am waiting." "For what?" She picked up her scotch, one precise sip. "For the move you are most afraid to make," she said. "Everyone has one. Yours is coming. I can see it from here." He looked at her for a long moment. Then, 11 years ago you were engaged," he said. Rose went completely still. "His name was Carter Ellis, senior partner at Whitmore and Ellis. You won his biggest case. He left you the week after." The room was very quiet. "I am not him, Rose," Vincenzo said. Something moved through her that she had not planned for and could not immediately contain. For 3 full seconds, Rose Sterling, who had an answer for everything in 11 years of never losing, had nothing. 3 seconds. Then she moved her piece without looking at the board. "I know," she said. "That is why I am still sitting here." Vincenzo looked at her 6th piece on the board, at the position she was building, patient, precise, completely without fear, and understood that what he had just said had cost him something, not tactically, personally. He had shown her that he knew her wound, and she had shown him in 3 seconds of silence that hit harder than anything she could have said, that she was choosing to stay anyway. That was not a legal decision. That was something else entirely. Rose just told the most dangerous man in Manhattan why she is still sitting at his chessboard. If you were Rose, would you have taken that bet? Or walked out with your legal papers? And gentlemen, if a woman like Rose walked into your world and outplayed you at your own game, what would you do next? Tell me in the comments. Tell me where in the world you are watching Christy J's story from tonight. Subscribe and hit that bell. Moves 7 and 8. Something had shifted since Vincenzo said Carter Ellis's name. The performance had stopped on both sides. They were playing chess now, the way people talk at 3 a.m., without the energy required to manage how they were perceived. Rose asked about Soul, not about the syndicate, about the boy, the 9-year-old whose mother had precise hands and a concert pianist's understanding of when to hold a note and when to let it go. Vincenzo told her, not everything, but enough. The Ivy League scholarship his mother applied for without telling his father,
The double life. Lecture halls by day, the family business by night. The specific exhaustion of a man who had been two people simultaneously for 20 years and had forgotten which one was real. The tech empire, Rose said, moving her piece. That is your way out. It was supposed to be, he said. What stopped it? He looked at the board. The same thing that stops everything, he said. The past does not release cleanly. Rose looked at her pieces, then at his, then at him. No, she said. It does not. She moved her 7th piece. But it releases. Something passed between them across the obsidian board. Not romantic, something more foundational, the specific recognition of two people who had been carrying weight alone for a long time, and were in the presence for the first time of someone who understood the shape of that weight without needing it explained. You are extraordinary, he said. Simply, without performance. Rose looked at him over her spectacles. For exactly 3 seconds, she did not have an answer. The first time in 11 years. She felt something she had locked away move in her chest. Not open, move. Like a door that had been sealed so long it had forgotten it was built to open. She picked up her queen, made move 8. She looked at her queen on the board, at the position she had built across 8 moves, and made a decision not about the chess, not about the case, not about the 50 million, about whether she was going to let herself be seen by this specific man in this specific room on this specific night. The answer arrived before she finished asking the question, and it frightened her. And she did not look away. Move 9. The moment the game stopped being about chess. Rose looked at the board for a long time. Then she picked up her queen and sacrificed her. Deliberately. Completely. With the calm of a woman who trusted her position so completely that she could afford to appear vulnerable. Vincenzo stared at the board. You do not have to do that, he said carefully. You are in a strong position. I know, she said. Then why? Because I want you to see something. She looked at him directly, past the spectacles, past the board, past everything both of them had been using as armor since she stepped out of that elevator. I do not need my most powerful piece to win. I never did. I brought her out because you expected me to. Because everyone expects a woman like me to lead with everything she has. She paused. I always have something in reserve, Vincenzo. He looked at the board, at the space where her queen had been, at the 3 pieces remaining, and understood, with the clarity of a man who had spent his life reading power, that he was looking at the most confident move he had ever seen in 36 years of playing this game. He leaned back, looked at her. The room felt completely different from the room she had walked into 2 hours ago. Rose, he said. Finish the game first, she said quietly. In the doorway, Seo had not moved, had not spoken, had simply watched. The way he had watched everything for 27 years. With the patience of a man who had been waiting for exactly this moment, and had known it would come eventually if he simply stayed close enough to witness it. Vincenzo looked at his pieces, at her 3 remaining, at the position she had built across 9 moves from the very first moment she sat down, and understood fully, finally, that he had been in her trap since move 1. Not the chess trap, the other one. The one she had not planned either, and he was not afraid of it. For the first time in 36 years, he was not afraid of something he could not control. Moves 10, 11, 12. Move 10. She took his knight. The piece he had been protecting since move 3. Gone in one clean motion. Vincenzo said nothing. Move 11. She repositioned her remaining pieces into a formation so simple it did not appear in any competitive record. His mother's formation. The one taught to a 9-year-old boy in a kitchen in Seoul before the house woke up. Vincenzo went completely still. "Where did you learn that?" he asked. His voice different now, something exposed in it. "Your mother published a chess column," Rose said quietly, moving her piece. "In a Korean cultural journal, 1987 to 1994. I found it in the Columbia Library archives." She looked at him. She was extraordinary. The room was very quiet. Something moved through Vincenzo's face that nobody in his world had ever seen on it. Move 12. Rose moved her final piece, set it down with the quiet of a woman who had been here before and knew exactly what this moment cost the person across from her. "Checkmate," she said. Not triumphantly, not with performance. With the same quiet she brought to everything that mattered. Vincenzo looked at the board, at 12 moves laid out before him, like a story he should have been able to read from the first page. He was in her trap since move 1. Not the chess trap, the other one. In the doorway, Seo moved. One step, his hand going instinctively to the position it had occupied for 30 years in moments of threat. Vincenzo raised one hand, just slightly, without looking away from the board. Seo stopped. And in that doorway, the man who had been protecting Vincenzo Kang since he was 9 years old looked at Rose Sterling across the obsidian board and felt something he had not felt since a woman with precise hands asked him to watch over her son. Hope. Vincenzo looked at the board for a long time, then at Rose, at this woman in the emerald gown who had walked into his penthouse with legal papers and left them untouched beside a glass of scotch, while she dismantled 12 moves of his best play with 3 pieces and his mother's formation. He had spent 36 years being the most formidable person in every room. He looked at Rose Sterling and understood that was no longer true. The room was completely silent. Vincenzo looked at the board for a long time. Rose waited. She was good at waiting. Then he reached forward and tipped his king, slowly, deliberately, with the intention of a man who was not conceding defeat. He was making a choice. He looked at her, not as a lawyer, not as an opponent, not as the woman who had just dismantled his best play with his mother's formation, as his equal. The first equal he had encountered in 36 years. "You went to the Columbia archives," he said, "for a chess column from 1987. "I go wherever the case takes me," she said. "This stopped being about the case a long time ago," he said. She looked at him, did not deny it. He reached into his jacket, took out a check, set it on the board beside the tipped king. $50 million, already written, already signed, prepared before she arrived. Rose looked at it, then at him. "You prepared this before the game," she said. "I prepared it before I knew you played chess," he said. "I was always going to give it to you." He paused. "I just needed to know if you were worth more than $50 million first." Rose stood up, picked up her gold clutch, her briefcase, walked to the door, stopped. In the doorway, So stood. He looked at her with the expression of a man watching something he had been waiting 20 years to see. He stepped aside. Rose looked at the check on the board, at the tipped king beside it, at Vincenzo sitting perfectly still across the obsidian surface. And Vincenzo the dragon, the billionaire, the most dangerous man in Manhattan, sat at his obsidian board and waited.
Because in 36 years of taking everything he wanted from every room he had ever entered, he had never once waited for anything. And he was waiting now. And he was not afraid of it. And that, more than the checkmate, more than the queen sacrifice, more than 12 moves of the most extraordinary chess he had ever witnessed, was the most clarifying thing that had ever happened to him. Rose stood at the door, her hand on the frame, the check still on the board behind her, the tipped king beside it. She stood there for a moment, this woman in a deep emerald gown 47 floors above Manhattan, and let herself feel the full weight of what had happened in that room. Not the chess, not the case, not the 50 million. The specific weight of a door that had been sealed for 11 years, moving toward something she had not allowed herself to want since a week that cost her more than she had ever told anyone. She turned around, walked back to the table, picked up the check, looked at it, set it back down beside the tipped king, looked at Vincenzo. "Keep it," she said. "I never needed your money, Vincenzo." She picked up her gold clutch. "I needed to know if you were worth my time." She held his gaze. "You are." At the door, Sio stepped aside without being asked. She walked through. The elevator doors opened. Behind her in the penthouse, at the obsidian board, beside the tipped king and the $50 million check that nobody took, Vincenzo Kang sat completely still. For the first time in 36 years, the most powerful man in Manhattan did not know what to do next. And it was the best feeling he had ever had. He picked up his phone, called Seo. "Find out what she drinks," he said. Seo, standing at the elevator, watching the doors close on a woman in a deep emerald gown, allowed himself the specific, quiet smile of a man whose patience had finally been rewarded. "I already know," Seo said. 3 days later, a single white orchid arrived at Rose Sterling's office. No card, no name, just the orchid her specific favorite, mentioned once in a profile piece 6 years ago that nobody reads anymore. Rose looked at it for a long moment. Then she picked up her phone, called a number she had not called before. He answered before the second ring. "I told you," Vincenzo said, "the game is just beginning." Rose looked at the orchid, at the Manhattan skyline through her office window, at the 11-year-old scar of a door finally beginning to open. "Yes," she said, and for the first time in 11 years, Rose Sterling smiled at something that had nothing to do with winning. Rose's hand on her desk beside the white orchid, her gold spectacles, the Manhattan skyline through the window, the beginning of something permanent. Rose Sterling walked into the Dragon's penthouse to win $50 million. She left something worth more than that on the obsidian board. If you were Rose, would you have taken the bet or walked away? And gentlemen, if a woman like Rose outplayed you at your own game and walked out without taking the money, what would you do next? Tell me in the comments. Tell me where in the world you are watching Christy J's story from tonight. Subscribe and hit that bell. We will see you in the next story.